Well, we're shooting outside. We're going to shoot this class in all kinds of different environments. That makes it pretty fun. But we're going to talk about biotic versus abiotic conditions here, and what is biotic versus abiotic factors. Anytime we put the word a in front of it, it means not. Okay, that's a Latin thing. You know, once you learn Latin, it kind of makes science pretty easy. So when you put a in front of it, it means not. Like we have the word typical, which means it typically happens, and then we say atypical means it's not typical. Okay, so biotic, bio means living, and biotic means of that type. Okay, so biotic means things are living. Okay, abiotic means they're not living. So one of the things we have to do is look at biotic factors versus abiotic factors. So we come outside here and we look around, and of course the tree is living, so that makes it a biotic factor. Okay, the rock that we see down here, the rock is not living, so that's an abiotic factor. If we look at the air here, okay, the air is actually an abiotic factor because the air is not living. So we get the idea of that, okay? So then when we look at wood, all right, we look at wood, and the wood's been cut, okay, even though it was living at one time, it's not living now, so that makes it an abiotic factor. So that's one of the things. We have to look at all the biotic factors and all the abiotic factors. And then we say to ourselves, we say, okay, so where are all these living things, okay? So we've heard the word atmosphere. Atmosphere is for the air, okay? Atmos, okay, atmos, once again we start talking about Latin. Atmos is the air, okay, so atmosphere, all right? So we break things in. Sphere means around, a section within, okay? So the atmosphere is all of the parts including the air, okay? So all the parts that include the land, okay? Everything that's on the dirt and everything, okay? So we look here, and I like this out here because we have grass and we have rock. But it's all setting on the, what's it called, for the earth, we call it the lithosphere, okay? So the lithosphere is the land. It's easy to remember because it starts lithosphere, and it also is for land. Now the water, okay, we look at the Latin word for water, hydros, okay? That's where we get, you know, the hydrogen and hydrated. But so the hydrosphere is all of the water, okay? So got a little bird bath here, okay? And even though it's a small hydrosphere, it's still in the water, so that makes it hydrosphere. So as we look at that, okay, we remember that we talk about the air is called the atmosphere, the land is called the lithosphere, and the water is called the hydrosphere. Now, I want to give a few more things, and I want to give a definition here. So once again, if you're watching these tapes, you can start and stop them if you need to take some notes. We need to define ecology, okay? Ecology is a big part of biology, all right? So biology is a big umbrella, and it has all these other things underneath it. So ecology, E-C-O-L-O-G-Y, okay, is the study of interactions between organisms and their environment, okay? So ecology is the study of organisms. What is an organism? Now, once again, we haven't talked about this a lot yet, but an organism is a complete and whole living thing. Organs make up an organ system. So if we talk about our stomach, that's not an organism. But we put all of our organs together and we are a complete and whole living thing. That makes us an organism. So ecology is the study of the interactions, how the organisms interact with their environment. So once again, it's the interaction between organisms and their environment. So the biosphere, okay, now once again we talked about the atmosphere, the lithosphere, the hydrosphere, but the biosphere, let's see about what that is. Bio means living, okay, bio means living. Like our camera person is getting eaten up by a fly. That's a living thing, okay? Well, the part of the earth that has living things, that's called the biosphere, okay? The part of the earth that has living things in it, okay? So we have a big deal of the atmosphere, okay? We have all the land, we have all these things. So everywhere, the part of the earth with living things, that's called the biosphere. So we have the biotic factors, which are the living things. The abiotic factors, remember, A means not. So if, you know, food's really good, you could say A not, meaning not really. Okay. All right. So biotic factors are things that are living. Abiotics are not living. So then we want to go on and get a couple more terms for you. Okay. So what is an ecosystem? Okay. So what is an ecosystem? All right. So an ecosystem is a combination of all of the biotic. Okay, now once again, we're writing this down. We're getting ready for our next test. After you take your first test, you'll kind of see how things work. An ecosystem is a combination of all of the biotic factors and all the abiotic factors, all the living things and non-living things in an area. That's an ecosystem. An ecosystem makes up an area of all the living and non-living things together. So this is an ecosystem in our backyard, and it has biotic factors and it has abiotic factors. Now, then we have the word niche, N-I-C-H-E, okay? Now, the niche, all right, the niche is what that organism does, okay, to survive. It's kind of like what's its job, all right? So, for example, what does the organism do? What's the niche? What's its job, okay? Your job might be to be a student, okay? So, what's a bee's job? A bee's job is to pollinate the flowers, okay? That's its niche. The niche is the job. Now, the place where the organism lives is called its habitat, okay? So, habitat is where it lives. Niche is what it does, okay? So now we're going to talk a couple more terms. We're doing a lot of things, so you may be writing a bunch of these things down as you go and taking notes. A good way to study for the test is to rewatch these, because remember, the video is where the test comes from. All right, so then we're going to talk about another thing called autotrophs. Auto means self, troph means food, okay? So an autotroph produced their own food. Autotroph produce their own food. Does a human produce their own food? No. We've got to harvest food. We got to go to the store and buy food. What about this tree? Is it an autotroph? Does it produce its own food? The answer is yes. The leaves themselves, we'll talk about photosynthesis later, but this is an autotroph. It produces its own food. It produces the green chlorophyll. It produces its own food. Even though it pulls stuff up from the ground, it pulls water and nutrients, it still produces its own food. So plants are autotrophs. Humans and animals are not autotrophs. Okay? Now, a heterotroph, okay, once again, autotroph, A-U-T-O-T-R-O-P-H, autotroph, produces its own food. Then we have heterotrophs, H-E-T-E-R-O-T-R-O-P-O, H-E-T-E-R-O-T-R-O-P-H, heterotroph. So a heterotroph does not produce its own food, okay? Does not produce its own food. It has to get its food from something else. So a human, okay, actually gets its food from plants. Believe it or not, everything that we eat comes somehow from a plant. And you're like, no, wait a minute, that can't be right. Well, hamburger meat, where does it come from? It comes from a cow, but what does the cow do? The cow eats the grass, okay, to actually produce the meat. So when you think about it, we're heterotrophs, and we have to have the plants, which are autotrophs, okay? All right, and then I want to talk about a couple more things, just a few more in this video. We're kind of rapid fire this time, okay? Let's talk about a decomposer. A decomposer is something that breaks down dead plants and animals, okay? So inside this rock and inside this grass, there's decomposers. There's organisms that are breaking down the rotten things. So a lot of times you see a mushroom growing on something, okay? Mushrooms are actually a type of decomposer. They're actually breaking it down. So a decomposer is something that breaks down dead plants and animals. Then I want to also talk about something called symbiosis, okay? Symbiosis is when you have two populations that live together, okay? Symbiosis, okay? Symbi, once again, Latin, together, osis, living in. And there's that fly from the camera woman, okay. So symbiosis is two organisms that live together in the same area. So we covered a lot of different things. I wanted to give you a big introduction. A lot of the things that we're talking about right now we'll use throughout the rest of the course. But in this video we did a lot of rapid fire of a lot of things. And so we talked about biotic and abiotic factors. We talked about the lithosphere, the hydrosphere, the atmosphere. We talked about niche and habitat and autotrophs and heterotrophs and symbiosis and decomposers. And as we talked about all those, we'll be able to make references to these things throughout the rest of the course. So I will see you on the next video.